Welcome to today's episode of the Group X podcast. I'm your host, Tony Zonato. And if you haven't yet done so, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another podcast episode. Today, I'll be talking to Dallas Blacklaw, trainer and presenter for Les Mills Asia Pacific. Dallas shares some of his best and most memorable experiences with us, from teaching to training and presenting to masterclass filming. So grab your favourite beverage, sit back and enjoy the show. Dallas, mate, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for coming on the show for a bit of a chat.
My absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you for inviting me.
All good. Hey, I would like you to tell myself and our listeners how you got into the fitness industry. Where did your journey begin?
That's a very good question. So for me, I was a very active kid. Played soccer or football for my whole junior, for my local football club, Coolum on the Sunshine Coast. So I played right from under sevens right through to first division for that club and was very sporty and stuff like that. And then I got into triathlon in the late 90s. And from that, a gentleman came to me and he said, I've just been over New Zealand and they do this thing where they ride a bike inside and the music's amazing and the instructor was brilliant. You've got to try it. I was like, that sounds like something I'd like to do. So did a 2-year Cert 3 and Cert 4, and then in 2006, I taught my first class. So basically just from being active and getting into triathlon, and I worked 10 years in supermarkets. So I was in supermarket management for 10 years, and I just couldn't see myself being there long term. So I just needed to do a career change, and so what am I into? And I ended up choosing fitness.
Excellent. So 2006 is when you first taught a group exercise class back in 2006. 2006, I'm going to say, obviously we all know is a long time ago. Things have changed a hell of a lot since then. I started back in 2003, so I'm a little bit ahead of you with that. And I know, started from the music that's changed so much from when we first started back then to what it is now as well. Where did you teach that first class? Which club was that at?
So that was a club in Noosa on the Sunshine Coast. So I did my certificate cert in Hervey Bay, which was about 2 hours down the road.
Yep.
So Noosa, the club was called Beach House. And I was on there as a contract personal trainer, and then went and did my RPM training, and I'd never done a spin class before in my life. Never been on an indoor bike. I'd only been on outdoor bikes, and went and did the training. And for all of you instructors out there, at my initial module training, I got withheld for further development from Miss Wendy. So thank you, Wendy. And so I was lucky enough to sort of eat some humble pie and make the decision to either go kick stones and go, I can ride a bike, I'm really good at this, or to actually go, there's actually something I can learn here, and that's what I decided to do.
Brilliant. I love that. So how many people were in your initial module training? Can you remember?
It was a full house. It was 2 groups of 8, so it was 16. Yep. And
Miss Wendy was the facilitator, the trainer.
Yeah, she actually wasn't even meant to take it. The person that was meant to take it, for one reason or another, couldn't get there, so she got thrown in the last minute. I didn't find that until years later. I thought she was the biz. She came in her sleeveless Les Mills trainer vest with all the program dots.
Oh, yeah, the black one with, I remember that. Yep.
And I remember thinking, I want one of those jackets.
I'm
going to be a trainer presenter one day just to have one of those vests.
They were cool. They were very cool vests. They were.
I've still got mine.
Have you?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So 2006, you went and did your training. You've done that. You've taught your first you did your initial module training. When you taught your first RPM class, talk me through 20 minutes before, if you remember, on what was going through your mind 20 minutes before teaching your first class.
I would probably say ignorance is bliss. So I basically just went in there and thought, just ride the bike and say some stuff. So that's basically what I did, because we'd been set up with sort of how to do initial cues and all that sort of stuff. I just got that stuff out and then just had the best time ever.
Yep.
So for anyone that knows me, is like I'm super enthusiastic. So a lot of the first probably 2 to 3 years of my teaching career, I basically just got there on enthusiasm.
Yep.
Yeah.
How many classes were you teaching a week? Like, what did you get to?
Oh man, that was back in the days where you used to wear it like a badge of honor. Like you go, I do 12. Well, I do 15. Well, I did 18 this week. So I was literally teaching, I think 13 RPM classes a week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mate, there's I think gone are the days, and look, I could be wrong, and if there's people out there, please jump on form and let me know somehow. I think gone are the days where there's full-time group fitness instructors.
Oh yeah.
Where, I remember back in 2004, 2005, there were some of my mates out there doing, 32, 34 classes a week just to make ends meet. And not just an RPM class or a cycle class, but, a pump and attack or you throw it all together and there it is, even freestyle stuff. There were instructors that did that. I can't even imagine doing that now. That just hurts thinking about it.
Horrendous.
Yeah.
Horrendous. Like we were so overtrained, like constantly, like recovery day. What's that? and yeah. So
that was Sunday. Oh no, hang on a second. Someone needs a cover. Yeah, that's gone.
Exactly.
Wow.
The adaptions were not existent. We were super fit, but just through pure volume.
Yeah. So what do you think it was that made you really want to, apart from having the vest and apart from someone sort of saying, yeah, you wanted to do something, what was it that made you want to be an instructor?
Cool. To be honest, it was just that association initially with bike riding, which I loved. So triathlon and road riding and all those sort of things. And I was like in the fitness industry. So I started off being a PT and a contracted PT. And then I was like, you get to ride a bike. I like riding bikes. Let's go teach classes. So it was.
I love that. That's so simple.
That knows me, I'm a simple man. And that was it. Once we get down the road a bit to, how I sort of advanced my career, it's a different story. But initially, it was purely just, I like riding bikes. I can get paid for riding a bike. Let's do that.
Let's do it. Yep. And what was next? So cycle and RPM was your first program. What did you go on to after that? What was program number 2? The way you looked at me then, I think you're going to say to me something like jam or body jam or something like that, shabam.
You are not too far off. This program involved a resistance tube and an inflatable purple ball.
No way.
Yep.
Vive.
Yes. So, before it was Tone, it was Body Vive. So, I went and did my Body Vive training with
That's
him.
Brilliant.
And honestly, some of the best times that I was living Da Vida Loca.
Yeah.
Like great. I was on the Love Boat. I was living Da Vida Loca. I was shimmering, and I was so oily. But the thing was that I was so bad at it that I'd have to practice for hours and hours in my lounge room just to make it look like it should.
Yeah.
So I'd be up on stage going, towards the front door, now towards the coffee table, now left to the kitchen. So that's kind of how I learned, and to make it look as flamboyant as it should. I really had to go next level, which was good.
Who was your trainer? Who was your trainer for that?
So Kim. So Kim, what was her Body Pump Kim? She was on a couple of She was Queensland. All I remember is Kim. I can't remember her surname. I'm sorry, but yeah, she was on the trainer team for years and years.
Yep.
Queensland based. Yeah, body pump, body vibe. She was amazing.
Okay.
Bodybuilder.
Yep.
Yep. She was incredible. Yeah.
Brilliant.
But yeah, lovely lady.
Awesome. So you're a trainer and presenter in Vive for me? No?
I did get offered at one point.
You did?
They actually rang me. I think Shelley rang me and
Yep.
said, I know you're trained in Vive. Would you be interested in jumping on as a presenter? And once I'd finished laughing,
Yep.
I said, oh, no, probably. I'm so grateful for the offer,
Yep.
but I'm going to have to politely decline because that would take up pretty much my whole week just trying to look half decent with all your legends up on stage.
Good on you for realising that there's a space and you just weren't sitting in that space for that program.
In the essence, totally, 100%.
Yeah. This is the Group X podcast. So how many years were you teaching before the opportunity to become a trainer presenter presented itself to you?
Okay, so I first auditioned for the trainer presenter team in 2000 and it might have been 2008, maybe early 2009, and I missed out the first time. So what's that? It would have been the best part of 3 years that I'd been teaching.
Yep.
And this was back in the days when we used to have auditions. We used to have presenter auditions. So all of us went to Brizzy, and I had Kylie Gates and Karen Russell and all those absolute legends. And yes, no one made it the first time, so there was no one got for it. So and so I went back and took the feedback on and managed to get another bite of the cherry.
Was it something that you sussed out and sourced to find when it was, or was it someone that had approached you and said, hey, how about you give this a shot? What do you think of this?
Here's a story for you. So I was teaching at Noosa at Beach House, and a gentleman came in with a Les Mills jersey on, Les Mills cycle jersey, and he came and did my class. And after the class, I saw him out in the gym. I said, "Hey, mate, how you going?" He goes, "Oh, it was a great class, thank you." I was like, "Oh, thank you." I said, "I see you got a Les Mills jersey on there. Do you work for Les Mills?" He goes, Yeah, I work for Les Mills." I said, "Oh, what's your role with the company?" He goes, "Oh, I actually own it. I'm Bill Robinson. I own Les Mills Asia Pacific."
No way.
So yeah. So that was me digging myself a very, very large hole with Bill Robinson. So he'd come and do my class. I had no idea who he was, and I just did my thing. And then it turned out so Meg Wicks, or Meg Nuttall at the time, was the head of training for RPM, and he actually swung her an email and said, "There's this guy up in Noosa. He's got great energy and da-da-da-da. I think
that's fantastic.
He'd be really good for." So forgotten about that. So thanks for bringing that up.
No, it's all good. I look, as well as I think most of our listeners know, that I spent a good 5 years in Canberra working for Les Mills at head office, and Bill is probably one of the most down-to-earth people I think I've ever met. And so when you saying that, I can totally picture him not wanting to come up to you and say anything, but when the opportunity arose for him to say something, he would have said something straight away. And he's not backwards in coming forwards. If he sees talent, he sees talent. He knows what he's looking for. So, mate, kudos to you. That's fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Well, what's the chances of that happening, right? So when something's meant to be, it's meant to be. Yeah,
totally. So, no, you said you went to audition first time. Nobody got in from the round you went through.
Yep.
What happened next?
So they just changed training managers, and Tommy Kay had just jumped on. So he came to the next round of auditions in Brisbane, and here's another story that instructors may want to know. Leading into that audition opportunity, I'd had crippling anxiety for probably about 7 months leading in. So for that, I'd kind of so I'd been really struggling with anxiety for the year. I was an expectant dad, and I had lots of stuff going on, and I was training too hard and all these things. Yeah. So on the day of the audition, we were in the room with all the other guys doing pump and attack and all of that sort of stuff. And they said, all right, RPMers, off you go. You can head into the RPM room and get set up. So I went in there just with the other RPMers. He goes, Dallas, you're up first. I went, righto. So I was sitting on the bike and my leg was shaking uncontrollably, like just absolutely, like I was an absolute rattled mess.
Yeah.
But then soon as the music came on, I sort of got what I needed to get done. And I was lucky enough to get through, which was amazing. But
thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Seriously, because that's it shows the real side of you. Yeah, which I'm going to say a lot of people, unless they were there, would not know that particular part. You know, that's it's not a weakness. It's more of a, this shit's real. What we go through and what you guys go through as trainers and presenters. There's nerves involved. You know, there's preparation involved. There's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes that I think a lot of instructors probably don't get and don't get to see that side of things. So thank you for sharing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries, mate. And since all that went down, it probably was about a 2-year journey for me to get through that, which is one of the worst things that's ever happened, but also one of the best things, because it's just made me have such more of an empathetic view on life and people and all the rest of it. But I've since found out that some of the most successful people in our field and other fields are exactly the same way. They before they get on stage, they're an absolute mess, and then as soon as they get on, it's showtime. So I can't say that I'm a mess all the time before I jump on stage, but just knowing that if you do suffer from performance anxiety or whatever, for me, RPM in the stage was pretty much my safe place, when everything else, like supermarkets were intimidating, crowds were intimidating, but one place that was really good for me was being on stage. That was kind of my safe place, where everywhere else
that's interesting.
Was not great.
Yeah.
So which it's always been a constant for the last 16 years. It's always been a constant, which is awesome.
I love, as I said, I love the fact that you shared that with us, but I think that's unique as well, in the fact that you can channel anything else that's going on and almost stop that other noise that's going on when you're in there and do what you're doing, whether it's in front of 10 people or whether it's in front of 70 people or 170 people, if we're at a fitness convention, whatever it may be. That's, I just want to share something with you here. When I used to do this stuff for network and indoor cycling stuff, every time before I'd go and present or go and do a day, I'd sit there and for 5 minutes, exactly 5 minutes before someone would come into the room or whatever I was doing, I'd sit there with the Prodigy on in my ears and my headphones, and whether it was Smack My Bitch Up or I can't remember what the other one is now, but I would blare it. Firestarter, that's it. I would blare it so loud in my ears, and that was my way of one, bringing myself up, but also calming myself down and just switching off from everything and just having that blaring for 5 minutes, and then be like, right, let's go. Yeah, the headphones were off, and I'd be in the room to go, yeah, cool, let's do this. And it was, it's funny. You just, with your story, made me think about that, because I haven't thought about that in years. But
it's funny. I think it is the familiarity, the structure, just knowing exactly where you are, and you're just focused on. You're not internally focused. You're externally focused, and that's what kind of would get me out of that internal loop that I would be on, looking out externally and making it about the people in my classes made a huge difference in my sort of anxiety levels and stuff like that, which was an awesome lesson to learn.
So that day, take us back to that day. You're on the bike, you've had your shake, you press play, you go. Do you nail it? Do you screw it up? How did it go? How was it? How was that experience?
Well, the best way I can describe it was solid.
Yep.
So I was probably a good club instructor. So I rode the bike well. I coached okay. There was some little technique things. I probably had a little bit too much wiggle in my hips, Meg said.
Yep.
So little things like that. But one thing that was undeniable was in that moment right then that just the authentic enthusiasm and enjoyment for what I was doing was infectious. And that's sort of the feedback that I got was like, you look like you love this stuff.
Yep.
I do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Excellent. And just throw us back to what year was this in? When was this?
What's that, sorry?
What year was this in?
When was that?
Yeah.
That was 2009.
Okay.
So that was, that would have been late 2009 because I actually found out, how good is this? I actually found out that I was on the presenter team on the day that my daughter was born.
Excellent. So high fiving on that. So that's brilliant.
I was like, this day is wicked.
Yeah.
So, it's good.
Excellent. I'm a dad again, and I'm going to be a presenter for RPM.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
All right, quick story. 2008, Global Summit in Auckland. So there was a global trainer summit over in Auckland. Yep. So me being the super enthusiastic guy I was, it wasn't for instructors, I don't believe, but I managed to wiggle my way there. So I ended up going to Global Summit as an instructor and just hanging around, and didn't have tickets for any of the filmings or anything like that, but just hung around the registration table for RPM. Oh, that might have been 43 or something, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Around then. So it was Pete Manuel, Dan McDonough, Chris Richardson, Glenn, Sarah, and Meg were up on stage, and it was at the Sky Tower.
Yes.
And and it was and ended up being able to ride in that class just from basically just being there.
Yeah.
And the thing with it is I just kept on sticking my head in places where people would see me. And then when I actually got on the team, people go, I thought you were actually already on the team. I'm just like, where's Wally?
Yeah.
I just keep rocking up the stuff.
Brilliant. So if I'm wrong, that was Pete Manuel that did track 1.
Yep.
And it's about to go down. I can't remember what the song is, but yes. Yeah. Yep. Wow. That was, I'm going to say that was around the same time. I think, how corny is this? I think we launched that at Fitness First Bondi Platinum together. I think I launched that release with Pete at Bondi Platinum back when that was done, because he'd come back from filming, and I just remember I screwed up track 5 so badly. So let's not talk about that. And he just looked at me as if to say, "What?" But the good thing was, he just, no matter what I did, he was that great person up on stage next to you that you can screw it up, but he's just going to follow what you're doing anyway. He's not going to try and fix you in it. It was just, let's do this. And so, Pete, if you're ever listening to this, thank you. But that's gold. This is the Group X podcast. So okay, you got on the team. Yep.
Yeah. So I found out that day that I'd got on the team. So that was the 22nd of December, 2009.
Yep.
And then my first gig was the following March, I think, at workshops.
Okay.
So and that was, I still remember one of the first times I presented was with Lee Smith.
Yep.
And it was I think it's a Black Eyed Peas song. Fill up my cup. Marble tough.
Yes. Track 2.
Lee taught that, and Glenn was in Brizzy as well. Yep. And and I was basically a deer in the headlights for the whole time. I was just like, oh my God, this is so cool. And and again, that was basically me for the next year and a half. Every time I got a chance to present, I was just like, I'm so lucky. This is so great. So took me a while to actually sit in the role like I should, or like I do today.
Yep. And there's an avenue I'm going to take you down in a second, but I want to have a quick chat to you around. You're obviously a presenter, but you're a trainer as well. So yes, you get to do presenting and the new releases at quarterlies and I can't call them DVDs anymore. The masterclass is what we'll call them. Brain keeps going back. Oh yeah, here's the DVD. I've got it. Man, the first one I did was on a VHS, so that goes back to the early stuff. But it's being a trainer as well as a presenter. What made you want to become a trainer? What made you want to step into those shoes, which are, as we know, quite different from a presenter's set of shoes?
Most definitely. It's a great question. And it was, and still is today, just having the opportunity to expose people to what I love so much and the actual thing that we do. And like, as much as we try and overcomplicate it, it's like aerobics to music. Like we're not curing cancer, we're not sending rockets to the moon, but geez, we're making a huge difference in people's lives. And the fact that like I was just frothing on it so heavily that I just wanted to share that with people, and got an opportunity first to start with teaching RPM initial module trainings. Again, that was when Meg was in charge, and she's an absolute rock star and was one of the best people to learn from, because as far as being authentic and business, but also fun, but also like just incredible. And was lucky enough to start running those. And the first one I did, I actually I taught it with a guy named Troy, and D was actually in my first ever module.
No way.
So So D, the Les Mills DVD Presenter to the Stars, was in our first ever RPM module, which as a trainer or as a team trainer. So that's very, very cool as well. But it's something that I've really loved. I've been lucky enough to be able to be a trainer for RPM, sprint, and also grit, and at one time or another run those teams in Australia and Southeast Asia as well. So it's it's crazy, man. Like, it honestly is, like, the thing, and it's still, when I think about it now, like, I just feel so lucky to have done it, because like riding a bike, coaching's coaching, but the thing that sets us apart is just showing how much we actually dig it. And that's the thing. Like, I haven't really done, in my eyes, I haven't really done anything too special. I've just been myself and just enjoyed the ride. So it's been good.
Thank you from me to you as well, from being authentic and being you when you present and when you do your training stuff, because that does shine through. The times that I've seen you do your thing. The one that I remember more than anything was it was a fitness expo of some sort in Brisbane, that I was up there doing a Les Mills presentation, and I did the presentation and then walked out of that room into another room, and you were doing grit. And I think it was around the first time that grit had sort of come to fruition in Australia, and it was more showcasing it and that kind of stuff. And the energy that you brought to that room for these people that had no idea what to expect, but from the moment the music started, from the moment you started, that entire room were captivated. And I'm not saying this because I'm standing in front of you or sitting in front of you here. I'm not saying it because I'm your mate. I'm saying it because it was feeding bloody real. That the energy there, I was all business-like. I didn't even have training gear that day. Otherwise, I would have gone, right, let's go, let's do this, because you have that presence to captivate people and just command their attention. If I'm bold enough to say it, but it's bold enough to say, not bold enough to say it. We know I'm bald, for Christ's sake. But bold enough to say it is that you have that you.
Yeah, and it's the easiest person to be.
Yeah,
like it's so easy to replicate because you just be
you're being
yourself.
you. Yeah,
But yeah, and again, and thank you for that. That's awesome.
you're welcome.
That's really really nice for you to say. But it's just one of those things that as Dan McDonough said one time, if you're having a good time, make sure you tell your face.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. Like if you show enjoyment and if it's authentic and not cheesy and it comes from the heart and it comes from a good place, then it's going to be infectious and people are going to believe it and want to invest in it. So it just. Yeah, I just feel so lucky to do what we do. So it's pretty easy to be up for it.
Yeah. Hey, I want to take you down the path that I was going to go down before, and I'm glad I pulled it to the side a bit. But you've been on masterclasses. How many masterclasses have you done? Have you been on now?
6,
Okay.
I think.
All for RPM, or you've done sprint?
No, I've done 3 sprints. Oh, it might be. Actually, it might be 7. Yeah, 3 sprints and maybe 3 sprints and 4 RPMs, I think.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, I want to ask you an interesting. Well, I think it's an interesting question. I hope my listeners do too. The first, when you were asked to do the first masterclass, what? Give us a rundown on how that came about, but also, I'm going to say it was a telephone call. I could be wrong, but when you finished that, what went through your head with that initial? You've just been asked to do this.
Yeah, it makes me smile just thinking about it. It's so once I became an instructor and I met Wendy and I saw Wendy, and then I was just like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be. I think that's a thing. I think you can be a presenter or a trainer or something. Yep. So how far can you take this thing? So from once I decided to do that, turning up to 2008 Global Summit and doing all these things that I needed to do, it was like it was like a moment of, it was surreal first. It was just, you want me to be on the big dance? Is that, you're telling me you want me to? Holy, yeah, no, I'd love to. Yeah, cool. And then you hang up the phone, and I was by myself, and then I because my long-suffering wife, she sort of has to put up with my craziness. And first of all, I just gave myself a little secret fist pump and did a happy dance on the spot. And then I rang Katrina straight away, and I was like, they want me to go over to New Zealand and be on one of the videos. And she was just like, really? And I'm just like, yeah. And she goes, that's what you wanted. I was like, I know, right? So so that was crazy good, and it was such a great experience because we were having a trainer summit at the same time.
Yep.
So I had our instructor team, so Les Mills Asia Pacific instructor team over there, and then instructors from around the world as well. So to have a filming week where you had all that love and support and energy around you was, it was like the perfect storm.
Yep.
Like it literally was like the perfect storm. And the track that I ended up getting gifted was again right in my slot, right in the sweet spot. So
what track was it?
And it was 1,000 horsepower.
Yep.
So it was a track 5, and the beauty of this week, and compared to other filming weeks that I've done since, is that because we had so much going on, and I think we had 13 people up on stage, so there was a lot going on. So the focus wasn't just on you. Yep. We talked about what the focuses were and stuff like that, but you basically just got to be yourself.
Yep.
So they said, just do it like filming week. You had some rehearsals and stuff like that. But when it came time to drop the hammer, it was just do you.
Yep.
And that's probably the most authentic I've ever felt in that realm was on RPM 66 track 5. It was it was off the hizzy.
That was it. That's the first time. Track 5, RPM 66. I'm going to have to I'm going to go back and have a listen, because I this is embarrassing for me, but I stopped teaching in 61, I think it was. So I didn't get to see those releases.
Yep.
Yeah, even though I was still at head office, I just wasn't teaching at that stage, because traveling every week was a bit crazy back then. But I'm going to go on.
We're super lucky. That was the first ever release that went digital.
Oh, okay.
So, yes. So it was again super lucky. I got to get a DVD kit. So I got one of the last DVD kits. Yeah. But it was one of the first that went on. So it's still on demand now. So it was one of the first to be on demand. So it's cool.
Brilliant. I've got on demand on the TV, so I'm gonna, if it's not tonight, it'll be tomorrow. But I'll go find it and gonna do your ride. Easy.
Yeah.
Cool. So that was the first filming. Tell me about the second opportunity you got to be in there, and was the experience for the second one obviously different because it wasn't the summit?
Yeah. So after 66, and it was that's when Michelle Dean was our training manager at the time, and she openly said at the end of it that she just bawled her eyes out during the track, because she knew how much that I wanted it, and she knew how hard we'd all worked, and this thing came together so well. So yeah, Michelle Dean's another absolute legend. Yep. So it just felt so good, and it went so well that when I got asked to do RPM 69, it was something that I didn't expect, but I wasn't surprised either. Yep. So I was at that point of being quite confident in my ability at what we did, and that was probably one of my biggest pitfalls early in the piece. And one of my mentors, Lee Smith, basically told me that I need to step into my space and stop being so polite. Yep. So I was actually starting to believe that I was okay at this stuff. And when I did get asked, I was obviously super humbled, but very much ready to go give it a crack. Yeah. Yeah.
I love hearing that. The other thing I appreciate so much is that you have a mentor. You have someone that you bounce stuff off, and you have that person that's not a guide, but what a mentor is. But they help you with all of that kind of stuff. I think it's great that everyone needs to have one. Yeah, that in itself, not only for what we do or what you do in this space, but I think also life in general. Yeah, there's that person that's
Well, yeah, we used to do this drill, and I used to run this drill in advanced module training called Knots to Nuggets, and it was basically the thing that you would hate for people to think of you might possibly be the thing that you need a little bit more of. Yep. And the thing that I would always hate, I would hate for people to think, oh, you're on yourself, or you think you're good, or you think you're getting too big for your boots, or anything like that. And I think that comes a bit from my upbringing and stuff like that. Is like you just downplay stuff. You don't act like you're the best thing in the room and all of this type of stuff. Whereas that's what I needed, not too much more of, but just a little bit more of, to have that confidence to fulfill your kind of potential, and not shy away and let the opportunities pass by because you were a shrinking violet. Yep. So yeah.
So I suppose the training between, we know that the program is different for sprint to RPM. Is the filming experience different on what you go through as a presenter? And
For sprint and RPM.
For sprint to RPM, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely, because for RPM 81, we filmed our sprint 15 in the same week. So we did, I was over there for RPM and sprint.
Yep.
So, yep. And so in that time, it was very different, the prep for RPM, because it was, well, RPM's a totally different program,
yes.
right?
Yep.
So if anything, I have to pull back a little bit in RPM, and it's not all about pure emotion and intensity. It's actually telling a little bit of a story and letting the coaching come to life. And because my strength is just rip the Band-Aid off and just get it done.
Yeah. Whereas
for me, I had to sort of think about it and sort of woe back and structure and all of that type of stuff, which is great for me, because here's a hot tip. One of the only times that I ever fully script was at filmings. Like, I'm not a huge scripter.
Yep.
So I'm more of a have a focus and just whatever happens, just go with the emotion and let it go.
Yep.
Whereas scripting was an awesome thing for me to learn. And RPM was definitely, we filmed into RPM first, which went well. It was with Dee, and it was with Lee Smith from, so English Lee Smith.
Yep, from the UK. Yep.
And yep. And then it was good, but I wasn't 100% happy with it. And I don't know whether you ever are when you do filming. You sort of get to it and go, oh, I could have done this better, I should have done this, or whatever.
Yep.
And at the end, it was okay. But come sprint, again, an amazing lesson that I learnt, because I had Lee Smith and Bass was there as well. And Bass is just professional, bloody legend. So we got so good at that release that if we wanted to, we could have finished each other's sentences because we had scripted and been through it. But then come race day, it didn't come across as scripted. It just came across as smooth and relaxed and hard and all of the good things. So what I learned from that was that actual really knuckling down on the practice makes it's like triathlon, like training's hard, racing should be fun. It's the same as in filming week. The week leading up, you really got to apply yourself. So when the cameras come on, you can relax and just be in the moment, and just because you've been there a million times before in rehearsal. So that's probably the biggest lesson I learned, was to really apply yourself in the practice stuff, because when you're on the stage, that's not the time for you to practice. That's the time for you to be amazing.
Yes.
So that's So I sort of took that with me.
Cool. Thank you for sharing all that. I appreciate all of that. That whole journey you've just taken us on is great. This is the Group X podcast. What's in store for Dallas? What's next? What's coming up?
So a couple of years ago, I was what it was called at the time, head program coach for Sprint.
Yep. So
the Sprint program in both Australia and Asia. And then I went and had to, I thought that I needed to go get a real job. So what I did was I went and got a real job. I thought I got to go be a grown up. I'm going to go get a real full-time job. And I went and worked for another gym chain and set up a small group training system for them in Australia and Thailand. So in that time, I had to sort of part ways with Les Mills briefly, just to have exclusivity to this brand. And then once I'd finished work with them, then I was more than happy and more than ready to jump back on board, and hopefully, gladly enough that they welcomed me with open arms, and I was able to jump back on the presenter team. So long story short, I've managed to get the role of sprint team coach for Australia and Asia. So that started in January. So I'm just so
Congratulations.
excited to, yeah, thank you, sir. I'm super excited to work with my sprint team in Australia and Asia, and make us just be the best presenting team in the world. And then also the newish Les Mills program called The Trip.
Yes.
One of my big focuses is to get more instructors and create more awareness around the trip. So that's in Les Mills world. So
Brilliant.
That's what's in store for me for the next year.
Yeah.
For with Les Mills Asia Pacific.
I love the fact that you speak about proper job or a real job in that, because I came from a telecommunications background before I went into teaching and into PT and all that kind of stuff, where I stayed for a good, I think it was close to 12 years. But I remember coming from a real job, going into fitness, and then when not going to say not my time was done, but I'd sort of gotten to a stage where I'd met Rach, my wife, and something in me just was like, Tony, you don't want to do this forever. You don't want to be getting up at 4:30 in the morning to be PT and not getting home until 9 o'clock at night, because that's not, what is that? Yeah, cool. You can go to the beach during the day because you've got downtime, or you can go home and have a sleep during the day. Yeah, that's fantastic. But what are you doing? No. And then it was that whole, I need a real job, and then I was like, how can I get a real job in the industry that I love? How can I do that without having to feel like I've got to go back to my grassroots of telecommunications or IT? How do I do this? Then the job for Les Mills came up. I was like, hey, this is good. This is the business side of my brain that I've got working, that has been sort of laid dormant for 12 years, that I can reinvigorate into the industry that I'm so passionate about. This is good. This is really good. And then even more so after 5 years there, when the boys from Body Bike said to me, oi, Tone, come on over and play in this space. It's still that whole, I've got a real job, but I'm in the industry that I'm so passionate about and love, even though I'm not teaching anymore or anything like that. It's just that it's great to have a real job. I know that sounds corny to say it, but it's a real job in an industry that is real as well. It's not feeling that I've got to go 9 to 5 in an industry that I don't know, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like being in supermarkets for so long makes me appreciate what I do now.
Yep.
Like I got some amazing learnings from managing, and so just financials and managing people and rostering and problem solving and conflict resolution and all those awesome things.
Yeah.
But I just know that for me, I need to be master of my own destiny.
Yep.
And that's how I roll. So when that good pressure is on me to make sure that there's enough zeros at the end of the week, on the end of the numbers, then you just do what it takes, and that it makes you good hungry as far as wanting to succeed for one, but also that success shrapnel hits everybody else too, because you want to be the best job that you possibly can, so you get invited back again.
True. Mate, I want to say thank you for joining me and having a chat and sharing your story with us. There's one last question I want to fire at you, and it's in relation to, what advice would you give somebody who is wanting to follow your footsteps in being a trainer or presenter? Yeah,
great. The first thing is that you have to love it, like as far as being in it for the right reasons. So if you're in it for all the froth and bubble of, I don't know, the socials and the I'm a Les Mills trainer or whatever it is, that is a very, very small part of it. There's definitely some great moments, and there's definitely some moments that guys on the trainer team know what I'm talking about traveling and hotels and all of that great stuff. But what I always say to the guys that I do the training is that the town of mediocrity is very, very full. So if you just want to be a mediocre instructor, you're in good company because there's a lot around.
Yep.
But to make the difference and to be the difference, applying yourself to the learning and then applying yourself to getting better. So don't just sit back on what you know. Always look to gain feedback, to improve, to watch yourself, to do mirror work, to give yourself, to self-review and all of these things, and be the best damn instructor that you can ever be. Because as presenter trainers, like the whole quarterly workshops and whether even getting on masterclasses and stuff like that is about probably less than 1% of what we actually do. We're in clubland like the rest of you.
Yep.
So that's the moment where you make the real difference. So in those people that choose you every week, because as you know, now in the fitness industry, people have so much choice.
Yeah.
They have so much choices. There's a gym on every corner. There's a circuit, hit, box, yoga, whatever, on every corner. And for that 30, 45 or 1 hour, they've chosen you to give them a fitness experience. So that is never wasted on me. I'm always like, I'm going to give these people the best damn experience that I can, even if there's 4 people or 44 people, they deserve the same experience every time. So don't ever just go in thinking that you can half-ass it. Just try and do the best job you can every single time. Just do your best. That's all you need to do.
Powerful words, mate. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. And as I said before, thank you for your time tonight to come on the show and have a chat. It's early days for this podcast to get out there with the trainer and presenter Where Are They Now series. But I'm grateful that you said yes, and grateful that you come on to have a chat, mate. So thank you very much.
My absolute pleasure, mate. I'm humbled and honoured to be part of it. And anything that I can do to help spread the love, I'm more than willing.
Awesome. Cheers, mate. Thanks very much.